welcome to EGO NetCast. I am Martin Lindeskog. Hi, Tamar.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
What's on your mind?
Well, everything's on my mind these days.
Yeah?
2020, the year, it's been a crazy year, absolutely crazy.
Yep.
But it's been, I would say, I know a lot of people, it's been really difficult for them. And on my mind, it's like the thing that's been on my mind is that it's been a year I get to learn who I am and a good year of discovery.
Yep.
And I don't have regrets about this year, I have to say.
Good to hear. And we will talk a bit more about that, I think. And it's nice to have been connected again and through social media and LinkedIn. And I saw a thread there and you asked about a thing and we've been in touch since then. And I will start out doing a search on you because you are really on the web, on the social web, as you wrote the book on that. So
Correct.
I got plenty of results on your name, Tamar Weinberg. So it was about 166,000, I think. And first it was
150. I have to Google this now.
166,000. I don't know how common your name is, but Tamar Weinberg, I think it's pretty.
Oh, maybe out there. For me, it's 715,000. But if I go to any page beyond like page like 5, it's probably there's not there. Let's go to page 10.
Yeah.
It's still me. Okay.
But it's still a lot. So, but I will have some other questions about that in the future here. So your site, LinkedIn, Twitter, your books, and Techipedia, your old site, and Amazon, and then of course the book there, Social Web, Marketing Land, Angel List, O'Reilly, HubSpot, or Medium. That's what I, from my side, get on the first page there on Google. Do you have any comments on that?
I don't. I'm looking. I do go to like page 14 or so.
Yeah.
And there's nobody. Well, there's one entry that refers to me and a bunch of other ones. On the first, all those are accurate though. The first page is all accurate. Sounds right.
That's great. And we'll soon start about what you said about what's on your mind and how to find yourself, so to speak, and develop a new thing and be very open and transparent. And I like your comments and reflections, and especially on LinkedIn, because I have my thoughts about LinkedIn. I like it as a platform, but I have some issues with it also. So we'll probably come back on that, on how to build your own hub. So when I searched on the privacy search engine, DuckDuckGo, I found similar results, but also some new. On Flickr, I still have an account there, but after Yahoo took it over or bought it, I haven't been so active. And then
that was the same thing. I was pro, but I let it lapse after a while. I didn't care. It doesn't matter.
I liked it as an old blogger. I liked how I could incorporate it and use the HTML code and with my pictures and other things like that for Instagram. But when they increased the price pretty hefty, and when you had several hundreds of pictures, then you had to decide what to do with it. So now I think I have some basic account there, so they delete old things, and then you could have this, what do you call it, like similar to if this then that you automatically pushed on Flickr and Instagram and others, but I think that stopped. So I don't really know how it's working right now.
Yeah, I still use if this then that ever so for a few things. I use it for my calendar. And I port it to my email. And I do a task list integration. For me, it's a productivity stat thing. That's it. I don't even know.
Good. And then I also found a result there on Martech site, and then YouTube also on DuckDuckGo. That's
interesting how they use such random ones that I don't like. So DuckDuckGo is absolutely. It's funny. It started by a guy, also the last name Weinberg, no relation, but but the interesting thing about it is that, like, the algorithm on Google seems to be I understand DuckDuckGo is a privacy-minded browser, but it's not focused on like the stuff that you populate. I'm not populating Flickr. I'm not populating YouTube.
Yep.
It's interesting.
So that's the thing. It's a bit odd, but sometimes you get these odd things that could be interesting by DuckDuckGo also. But of course, the main use is often Google. But depending on what kind of profile you have and what you're searching for, you should have that in mind. And as we said, with the privacy thing and what kind of search results you get. But when I tried to search on your new venture, I had a hard time. So then you have to let the listeners know what you're up to here with your perfume and the whole journey here, because I didn't know how to search on that. So
it's
that made
how exactly, because the thing is that I have a decade. That's over a decade. What you're seeing is over 10 years of data points on me.
Yep.
And the search engine know to find that. But when you start something new, it's about building those links. And these days, nobody's doing that. It's all social.
Yeah.
It's all social. So the algorithm needs to start being mindful of that. But my story is that, I worked in those, like we just talked about, all those social media spaces. I've been a early adopter. I wrote a book on social media marketing. I wrote a book on adoption. Like you could see some of that stuff if you start Googling. But in 2019, I decided I was going to start a perfume brand. It's called Tamar, tamar.com, and with the emphasis of mental health and wellness. Because for me, I don't respond to the marketing message of perfume in general, that it's a seductive and a sexualized product. I was depressed and perfume saved my life. That's not something that most brands can say. So this is new, it's disruptive, and it's being done. Like I decided in January 19th to do it. I did a soft launch in May. Really didn't build momentum until about July or so, and we're into now the first day of October. But I, just to get the visibility of that in a freaking pandemic, it's hard. Yep. That said, like I said, I'm so happy to be alive right now. This is a year for the history books, and I mean, it's been really hard. It hasn't been easy, but it's about your attitude and making the best of it. And for me, it's about starting a business, starting a new leaf, turning a new leaf and making things happen. I'm excited about that.
Great. So you comment on also that because we have known each other through blogging and small business trends and other places, and also Twitter then, and you comment on Twitter there about the interaction. Could you have any thoughts and ideas about that? Because you have a big following there, but you wonder about the interaction there on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, so for myself, being that I was depressed for as long as I was, because that perfume saved my life and brought me out of a depression. I didn't feel like I was comfortable talking on social media. I wasn't really compelled to tweet. I wasn't compelled to post on LinkedIn. I wasn't compelled to be an active member of a community. And I'm coming back right now. I have 36.6 thousand followers on Twitter. Wow. It used to be 41.2, by the way, or 41.3 or 4. I don't even know, a little over 41. When I left Mashable, people slowly started tapering off. So it's really interesting. I worked for Mashable until 2013. So 7 years later, and I lost like 700 whatever.
How is Mashable doing right now? I remember the story about the guy. Was it a Scottish guy in his?
Yeah, Pete Cashmore. I mean, good for him. He left. I don't know, honestly. Yeah. I'm not really following the brand's really evolved in such a way that even when I try to build a rapport with some of my former colleagues, it's like it's impossible. It's unfortunate,
it's pity, because I liked back in the day, as I said, the story and the success, and also that I learned lots of things from Mashable. I still see it on Mashable on, I think it's Snapchat, I think some stories there, but it's lots. I'm an Apple fanboy. There's lots of that and others, but it's very short, bit size information.
They made a demographic switch, so as far as me being in touch with that, I'm not in that demographic. So there we go.
So that's interesting. Going back then to your perfume story, you wrote about it on Medium, and you also were there at Chris Brogan's new show.
Yeah. So I mean, so going back to this struggle of coming back to social media after a really long time and trying to get build some visibility. It's not easy to do. Like the follower count is not quality followers; they're all quantity, and I would say maybe like 0.001% of that is engaged with me. Yeah. So if I have 36.7 followers, I have about 37 people who are might actually see my stuff and might actually want to engage in it. That's crap. That's my feedback. So, and that's the same thing on LinkedIn. Yep. Like, I posted about how I lost my uncle, and I wrote something very personal. Yeah. And it wasn't until I complained to a friend of mine that nobody was commenting that he commented. And once he commented, it was like the floodgates, because he's an influencer. But like, just to get back in that after the fact, it's just really, the world is, the algorithm is not rewarding to bring you back.
But don't you think, because that's when after several years here, will put up my last site, so-called teaparty.media. I will talk about this thing, because I think still you need a hub and a place, your own website, a blog, a podcast, a newsletter. But I agree with all things like that. Like LinkedIn, I like it and so on. But I see this, as you said, interaction and the thread. It's hard to go back and find something. And also, maybe that's not in America, but in Sweden, I've seen a pattern of how you tag people, like, how do you say, give high fives and stars and likes, and then it's for a day or so, and then it's, gone in the stream, and it's hard to find something. And as you said, people, as a former purchaser and a bit allergic to pushy salespeople, you get this cold call, like messaging, people want to contact you and so on. You did a post on that pretty publicly. Yeah. Could you tell about that? I thought that was pretty funny and serious in the same time. At the same time,
it's funny and serious. So LinkedIn, unfortunately, and I honestly, I raised this in 2009, maybe 2008, maybe. Or even 2007, LinkedIn has a terms of service agreement that says you're not supposed to like cold call and pitch people, but they don't enforce it. Yeah. So because of that, it's just it's a cesspool of people pitching sales to everybody. Of course, there's relationships, and it's all about relationships. But most people's objectives are, can you connect to me? I want something from you. It's not like, let me spend some time building a relationship with you. It's let me spend some time throwing myself at you and showing you what I can do for you. Or rather, what you can do for me. Forget what I can do for you. It's what you can do for me. I want you. Like, they want to use people, and I'm of the belief, and I've written about it in a book, my book in social media marketing, that it's all about relationships. And I've been saying that, and that's also part of, like, besides the fact that I didn't feel like I could speak. Why do I want to be on LinkedIn when LinkedIn is all about spam? And unfortunately, there is, like, I would say 30% of the network, maybe 40% of the network is people with that objective. So I've been sharing those stories, and recently somebody connected with me, and he wanted to like sell some, I don't know what it was, like big corporate entities, think tank for whatever it was. Yeah. And I responded to him saying, I'm a one-person perfume brands. Yeah. How are you going to help me? And his response was to block me on social. So he blocked me completely. Wow. So I took a screenshot, because I had the screenshot before, because I sent it to a friend of mine privately. And I said, this is why I'm not on LinkedIn. This was the influencer that just engaged on my comment. And his response was, his response was like unacceptable. Like, it's just like, that's not the way you do it. You just show me that you want to use me. So I did a name and a shame. I had the screenshot. I shared it. No details. I just said, build relationships. One person commented, he's like, you should have edited the guy's name out. And my comment to him was like, I'm not afraid of naming and shaming. First of all, the guy is never going to find out that it's there, because he blocked me. But I also, if you Google the wall of shame, I am actually going to see shame. I know mine shows up. Okay, there are a few. Let me see. Yeah, there's a bunch of, like, if you Google the wall of shame and Tamar Weinberg, then you'll find it. Because, like, I don't, that's the algorithm. I'm not fostering that site, but I have a wall of shame, a Techipedia wall of shame, where people have pitched me. And I have very, very clearly on my page, this is what you need to pitch me for. Please don't send me blanket emails. People go into a form that says, is this spam? They hit no, and it's spam. So I started calling them out, and I named and shamed them. And people are like, you shouldn't do that. And frankly, I don't care. Let's put people, I'm going to make it very obvious.
That's how Jon Jens talked about it in his book, the referral engine. It's know, like, and trust, and then refer. So it's that process in so-called face-to-face, but also online, I think it should be.
Yeah.
So I've been wondering about this for some time. So it's interesting that you're doing these call-outs and put the, how to say, in the sand, the flag, or say that don't cross this line. So I think that's important, because it's how we spend the time and the eyeballs and the time spent, and where you could get some meaningful relationship and create something. So again, what do you want to do with your new venture here, with the perfume business?
Yeah, I mean, my perfume business for me is, I mean, I want to make it big. I want to help a lot of people. And my objective is to reframe the way perfume is used. Wear it for yourself, not for other people. So it's completely different, and it's harder because it is an education. People like the product, they know it works. Some people are like, I have headaches. I'm like, have an open mind. You won't have a headache. Because I used to have headaches too. And I used to think I'm never going to wear perfume. And all of a sudden, perfume saved my life. And then I had an open mind. And I realized if it can help me, I'm going to look beyond it. You know, I also, you got to find the right thing for yourself. My plan is to if you put on perfume with the right mindset, you revisit that mindset throughout the day, it is a game changer. It completely changes everything. And for me, that's what it did. So I want to launch a brand with a focus like that starts with the story, and then that goes far beyond that.
And the product as such, could you tell a bit, is it created individual or unique for every customer, or how is it working?
So no, there are brands that do that, but I didn't want to do that. I basically, perfume in general, there's, in my opinion, and this is after having sampled like thousands of perfumes now, ever since I got into this. I say that perfume in general is there's like two types of perfumes. One's very mainstream, and the second not so mainstream. So the not so mainstream ones usually they say scent is very nostalgic. That when you smell something, it links to your memory. So the mainstream stuff, for me, when I try something on, like it smells like the mall, like it smells like stuff you've already tried. But if you're trying something that has that's new, that's not mainstream, you don't have any memories upon which to build a foundation. So for me, these are two completely different fragrance line. Right now, I launched two different fragrances that ideally you're going to start your own new memories because of that apparent correlation. Whether or not that's completely true for me, I kind of argue, but you could create that. And that's where things, in my opinion, are different.
Okay. And are these perfumes, are they both female, men, or unisex, or?
Yes, they are unisex.
Yeah, because I mean, personally, I liked several. I mean, brands back in the day, like British style, like Burberry and others. And but for many years, I haven't had so much. I mean, of course, in deodorant and other things, but aftershave, I used one that's very good for skin and so on. Because some of the perfumes and aftershaves are, I mean, not so good in a way. It could be hard for people who are allergic or sensitive to smell, and it could also be on your skin. So how have you thought about this?
I mean, that's the challenge. The biggest challenge is like you need to be. I definitely want to be mindful of that, but I also like to say that a lot of it is about it's about how you perceive it. So I read this book. I'm a big fan of this individual. Her name is Rachel Hertz. She's an educator in the scent world. She wrote a book called The Scent of Desire, and she talks about how a lot of people have aversions to scents, not just aversions, but like they become sick from scents. And it's like sort of a domino effect that doesn't necessarily have roots in a specific, it like usually has roots in one specific scent, but then it becomes like, it becomes so psychologically tying like that all of a sudden, like you reverse to all the scents. So where am I going with this? In terms of my perfume, I definitely want to be mindful, like, that we're creating something that doesn't have any association that could potentially do that. Of course, if something happens later on, like I said, you reverse to something because of something that bad that happened. Like I can't change that. But when it comes to this in general, my belief is that you shouldn't wear too much to overpower anybody else and do it for yourself. So I don't want to, when I put on perfume, I put on such a small amount that I feel it, I smell it when I put my wrists to my face.
Yep.
And that's what I like to do throughout the day. That being said, people might smell it. I just don't want to overdo it. And that's it's all about reframing the product and reframing how you use the product.
That's a bit interesting. We could take an example. For example, cedar tree that you have for lighting up a cigar, for example, or something like that. That you could have some sensory and you like that smell and that context. So that's interesting to hear about. And my interest in tea, for example, I like to test tea in different ways, and then wine. Often it is the smell and the senses there that you feel, but you think it's when you drink it. But often it's smell, but it's a training thing also. So it's interesting to hear your thoughts about that, and also how you connect it for yourself and some kind of memory and some sensation, some positive thing. So could we dig, if you want, a bit deeper into that? What was this making you to create this? Because you said you had going from tough times and depression, and then you smelled something and got this aha moment. Could you tell a bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, so I was depressed. I hit a rock bottom, and when I tried on perfume one day, it like all of a sudden I realized we have 5 senses, and our sense of smell is pretty dormant. We take it for granted. If I asked you, what did you taste? What did you eat yesterday? What did you watch yesterday? What did you listen to yesterday? What did you wear yesterday? You'll be able to answer that. But if I ask you, what did you smell yesterday? You might look at me like I have 3 heads.
Yeah.
The fact is that our sense of smell is perhaps one of the most powerful things that we have on our bodies, and yet we don't really like. If you ask me, if you ask somebody, if you ask the average person, if you had to get rid of one of your 5 senses, what would you get rid of? A lot of people would say smell, and I think for me, I can't answer that question anymore because it helped me, it changed me, it made me want to live. So where I want to go with that, I said, this is I decided I want to get startup brands with this message. It's really about not necessarily about creating my own brand. It's about seeing an existing brand, like seeing something that you have in your life and just start doing it. But as somebody who's an entrepreneur who wants to kind of I don't want to just be some marketer for, for all perfumes out there. Let me start with mine and see, hopefully I'll be able to empower every other brand out there to see their product that way. It's funny. I'm not going to name the company, but there is a product that does completely natural deodorant. They have many scented deodorant products out there. And when I was so into scent, I actually bought 12 or 13 of the products. I think it was 12. And every single day when I put on the deodorant, I take a whiff and I smell it before I start, because some of them really smell good and some of them I realize I will never buy again. But I still like them. They're not like I wouldn't wear them. It's just not my style. But it's funny because the deodorant brand would never think of marketing their products in this way. But this is like, it literally can reframe the entire narrative about wellness and feeling good if we started to really breathe in our scent and appreciate it. And so, like, when I say it's about my products, I'm not going to go out to that guy. He might look at me like, again, like I have 3 heads. So I'm going to start my own thing with the messaging and the mission, and hopefully other brands will hear and follow suit. I have we talk about like all those websites that I'm on. Why am I on all those websites? Because I was an early adopter in the social media space in 2005, 2006. Before social media was even a thing. I wrote a book in 2008 on social media. It was published in 2009. But the point is that I see things a lot when there's a lot of potential and I'm early. I saw AOL as like before it was AOL. I wish I knew to invest. I was 12 years old at the time. But those are things that I believe that I have an early edge on. And my objective here is to start something that this is early adopter. I have people who still come up to me and say, this is impossible. You're not going to be able to do anything. And it's funny because the person who told me that is my cousin who works in the social media space with me. But like, she always like was impressed by how real I am. And yeah, I'm being real. I'm doing something that I know that today is it's not going to be super well received, because it's like, oh, it's a nice, it's nice, unicorns and fairies. And it's like, it sounds like very, very fantasy like. But I'm telling you that this is going to happen. I don't have doubts. I know that this is literally going to be a thing.
Yeah. And I will say, but I can't tell either, but regarding the senses and so on, that I'm involved in a thing that has to do with that for a client. And but when it's published and launched, we could talk more about that. So it's fascinating when you talk about this in this way. So it's and my thing as a social media evangelist, that people have called me, that I inspired individuals to start with this new media. But I also struggled with this and say that you should be yourself. But first you have to understand yourself and do introspection. And in my tea interest, that because you could of course train your senses. Sometimes, of course, you have your body could be in different ways and different levels. Like you have a sensitive mouth, for example, so you could be a good wine taster, but you could also acquire the taste and learn how to the trick and skills. So in perfume, is it like a similar aroma wheel or something like that you have in wine, tea, coffee, and other things, or how did you develop your products there? Could you tell
I
anything about
hired a
that, or
guy.
is it a secret sauce?
No, it's not a secret sauce. I hired a guy. I told him I wanted to do this. I had tried on a bunch, like I said, I tried on thousands of perfumes, and and I said, here's the couple things that I want to do, and he's like, okay, let me put my potions together and let me make it happen. That's how I had it. That's how the perfumes came about. So I have two scents right now, and I launched those two because I didn't want to just have one. I didn't want to I wanted to give people a choice, but not too many. And I'm hoping that I'll have 20, 30, I'll have a lot more.
Yeah. So could you have a guess which one should I pick?
I mean, I need to know a little more about what you like.
Yeah. That's why I was asking. Is it any survey, or do you do any
No, so it was just
questionnaire when you go to your site? Or how do
I
you
mean, there's
find
nothing,
out?
there's no quiz right now. It's just a story. I think I will have that in time, because people had said that getting that is important, but there's only two. So, I mean, it's really hard to do that right now.
Yeah. So, but you said it was unisex. So it's one is not more feminine or one is more masculine or something like that. It's.
I mean, yeah, the answer to that is a yes, but it depends on who you are. So I will say that there are things that I would have believed to be more feminine that people have told me felt more masculine to them. So it is completely subjective. At the end of the day, perfume in the 60s and 70s was unisex. And all of a sudden marketing started shifting the perspective of perfume. So I don't want to define that. If I define that, all of a sudden you're going into a territory that it just kind of like it's hard. I completely agree with you. When I first started,
I'm pulling your leg a bit. That's why I'm asking about this, because, for example, I used deodorant I bought it so-called that are for women or females, because you saw the shape of it. It was a different handle or something like that, or a shape of the product. But I liked the smell because it was not so overbearing. That some of the for the men could be it very musky, or it could be So that's the thing, and then you get trapped in these different categories. So it's interesting how you framed it in a new way. As a former purchaser and also interesting in production and manufacturing, could you tell a little bit about that? You said you had somebody who got this inquiry from you and tried to get this product and developed. Could you tell how you're making the products, or and how you could get hold of them?
He's doing that. I contract him out. I contract his research out. He does it for me. We iterate. He sends me product. He lives in California, so I'm in New York. He sends me product across the country. I say, I like this. I want a little less of this. I want whatever. And we've made some changes. And, I don't own the formula. That's sort of like, that's an industry thing right now. It's a standard thing. I could buy it in the future should I want to, but I don't know if I need to right now because just, he creates it for me. So whenever I need it, I buy the materials from him and he creates it. Okay. And the rest of the product, I have to, like, it's just not an easy thing. They have one guy creating a formula. You basically have to buy boxes from a different place. You have to buy bottles and caps and everything from a different place. And I'm using caps from one place and bottles from a different place. So like it's an aggregate of a lot of different resources that I would have otherwise been able to use with one factory potentially in China. But thanks to the pandemic, I had to diversify and get creative. And I'm probably spending a lot more per product than I would have normally if not for the fact of COVID-19. But I don't have regrets because now I'm getting higher quality stuff I think for a little more. I still have to figure out if I'm going to break even for the beginning, but I'm happy. I'm happy where we are right now because I had a crowdfunding campaign and it was successful, and I'm learning things as I go along, and hopefully I'll be able to keep communicating this value proposition and have people reframe the way they see things, and hopefully my product will be the stepping stone for that, and I'll be big and all the things. I mean, my product is only starting with perfume, but I want it to be a content. I want it to be a story, and I'm looking forward to seeing about how that's going to happen, and I'm excited.
Great to hear. Do you want to tell anything more about this new venture or something else about social media or something else on your mind?
I mean, in terms of my thoughts here, I guess I share, I get very vulnerable and very personal on, for example, on Instagram. If you want to read about that, my handle is Tamar Essences.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing on LinkedIn a little bit. But like I said, those are the mediums that nobody really responds to you. It's like, it's hard to get real. And a lot of people are all about professional. They don't want to be personal. But now we're blurring those lines. We live at home. We're freaking working at home. Start blurring the lines. And that's my thing. It's the human.
Continue.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, there's the human movement. We all have that going on right now, and we need to start realizing that as humans, professionals, like we wouldn't be professional if not for the fact that we're human. So let's cut ourselves some slack here.
Yeah. Before I did this here together with you, I watched a webinar with a successful new company, but have long experience in the relationship marketing and direct sales and so on. And they said whoop whoop several times and celebrated and had fun, but they were professional and personal at the same time and making good business. And then I joined Chris Brogan and his partner and co-host or his new show. And they had, what's his name now? Altucher, or how do you pronounce it?
Harry?
Kid. No, not Gary Vaynerchuk. Altucher, or I should know the name, but I will include that in show notes. And he said that he had been living or wearing pajamas for a couple of months now, testing out how could you. Yeah.
I mean, listen, I've been wearing pajamas for the last. I've been working remotely for the last 13 years, so I've been wearing pajamas ever since. But I'm wearing real clothes today. If you were actually doing video, and you would see that.
Yeah, but we are doing audio, so that's all good.
Yeah.
And I was a blogger of this Pajama Media, what it was called back in the day. So it was called PD Media, and it was the old mainstream media from the gray old lady that said that these so-called bloggers, they are in their basement and no fact checking, you can't take them seriously. But that was a long time ago, so it have changed. So it's interesting to see this, and now also the old media, when they can't do regular news broadcasting and so on, they have to be creative and find things. So it's interesting to see how new media could take a stronghold and we could develop it. But as I said, both be professional and personal at the same time. So I think that's a good advice.
Yeah.
So who would you like to listen to on a future show on the EGO NetCast?
Oh, I don't know. Is that a standard question?
It is now. No, yeah, you could say you could pass, or you could think about it, or you
I
could,
have to think about it. There's a lot of people
yeah,
I want to hear from, but
yeah,
to sit down and hear is always challenging. I think
yeah.
maybe one people I want to hear from, his name is Sean Puri, and
Hmm.
he's the host of the My First Million podcast for The Hustle, the newsletter. And I mean, I'm a big fan of that. And I mean, you learn about his story a little bit, but like,
Yeah.
his focus is on other people. So
Mm,
we have to start talking about him. We
mm.
don't hear it that often.
It's great. And as I said, it was a bit challenge to do the search results on you, but as I said, you have a track record, and now you're doing a new chapter here, and now following it along. Could you tell the listeners where they could find you?
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, Instagram at Tamar Essences, Tamar Essences is a good place to kind of learn my vulnerability. LinkedIn, you can add me. If you
Mm.
add me on LinkedIn, just introduce yourself and tell me that you found me here. Because
Yeah.
if you introduce yourself and say, I serve businesses that do this and this and this, I'm like, okay, so once I accept, you're going to pitch me. So I don't even accept those anymore.
Yep.
It's actually
Good.
safer if you
Good for
don't
you.
pitch me at all. So there's that. Twitter, you could follow me at Tamar. That's my personal brand.
Yeah.
Instagram, I also use it, but there's just not enough characters. Sorry, Twitter is Tamar Essences, but there's just not enough characters to use my brand there as same way. And my website for really kind of buying the perfume and maybe reading more about it, and it's following my podcast because I have one as well there, is tamar.com.
Mm-hmm.
Tamar.
That's great. And talking about, you said about Twitter, I've been struggling with that with this Twitter follow limit, reaching them
Oh,
not so
you have
many
to
as you have. I have
You need to
5,000, but
follow. You need to follow. They need to follow you back.
yeah,
That's the challenge. You need to find enough people that'll follow you back.
yeah, and that's the challenge. And but Twitter, they are very staunch on this rule, and
Yeah, indeed
I
they
wonder
are.
why it, because I'm not a spammer, and I'm a person
No,
who
you're
want
not a
to interact.
spammer, but it's like it's all about it's like you could always have this. You could be skewed the other direction. You could have lots of followers, but when you follow people, unless you're
Yeah,
engaging with them and having them follow you back, it's hard. It's hard. And honestly, number means nothing. I wouldn't.
no, I
Heck,
know,
do you
but
even care about the people that you're like? I don't even like even of like the 400 people I'm following. I
mm,
really should unfollow like 300 of them because like
yeah,
I'm not so interested in that kind of content anymore.
yeah, and that's interesting to hear that how you have develop. I think it was an interesting conversation here. And at the end, I have to ask you if you drink tea.
I don't drink too much tea. No, I like iced
No,
tea.
that's
Arizona is
good.
the brand in the United States that I like a lot.
I know
Yeah,
Arizona. It's
Arizona
a
is
good
great.
brand.
Yeah,
So, what kind of beverage do you drink?
water. I'm a water.
Hmm.
I don't do sugar if I can avoid
No,
it.
yeah,
I try to live healthily now. Now that
that's good.
I'm beyond those that status in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have to ask this because I have a podcast in Swedish on tea and how to be productive, and a new one
We
in
could
English on tea.
Oh,
So,
well, I mean, like, yeah, I think we talked about that. You told me about that.
yeah,
But yeah, yeah. So I have it's usually a guilty pleasure when I'm pregnant, but I'm not getting
mm,
pregnant. I have 4 kids enough.
yep. That's good. So, do you have anything at the end here you want to say before we wrap up?
No,
Tamar?
I mean, I appreciate the time. It's been fun to connect. And yeah, I mean, not sure if anyone wants to connect, I'm happy to help in any way.
Yeah, I know that, and you are doing great work in different ways. And I will include some in the show notes here. And if you have anything that you add, so please do that. And thanks again for your time, Tamar.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, cheers.
All right, thanks.